But first, what will the quiet Australians of the next federal election look like? In the space of 3 years, the political focus has been pivoted from baby boomers in Queensland worrying about things called franking credits to people who were previously too busy or too disinterested in our political system. But this ongoing pandemic is a blessing and a curse to our political class, the latter especially to Prime Minister Scott Morrison. A leader who handled season 1 of COVID well, but it's well and truly jumped the shark in season 2. Australia has now been existing instead of living in this virus bubble for almost 2 long years. And as we saw the violent and aggressive protests this weekend, the dissenting voices are getting louder, and an election, whether the PM likes it or not, is looming. In these uncertain times, there is one certainty. Regular, hard-working Aussies would probably like to see less of their elected representatives dominating news bulletins and the front pages. More than 18 months in, a national cabinet has turned into a national joke. Our leaders, regardless of political allegiance, are now publicly turning on each other. Morrison is the Ross and the state and territory leaders are the Rachel. Are they on a break or have they broken up? Who knows, but more importantly, who cares? Sort your mess out and help us all move on. If there were gold medals for defensiveness and passive language when talking about the benefit of hindsight around issues like the war in Afghanistan and the more recent fight against COVID, Morrison's government would be world champions.
There's many whys in hindsight, and I've been very clear about the challenges we had earlier in the program, the 3 million doses that weren't there when we first started the program.
And that's what I'm asking. Can you just be straight with people David, and say you should have got them early?
David, I'm trying to be, but you keep interrupting me. I'm trying to answer your question, so I'm just trying to answer it. So if you'd let me do that, I'd be very grateful. What I'm saying is we had those early challenges in the program. We've overcome those challenges. We are now vaccinating at the rate of over 300,000 a day, and we are seeing those vaccination rates rise every day.
Getting to the point is not exactly the PM's strong suit. If he drove the way he spoke, he'd be that guy who sits on 60 k's an hour in the right-hand lane on the motorway. And his dithering is getting frustrating for everyone. At least his words match his actions. When it comes to taking action on issues, a sweat is rarely raised in the Morrison government. We saw it during the 2019 bushfires, and then the response to the Brittany Higgins alleged sexual assault incident, the wider issue of treatment of women in Parliament in Australia, climate change. It goes on. And to where do we all find ourselves now? Close to 2 years into a pandemic, and our 2 most populous cities and our nation's capital are locked down. Even as recently as last week, he refused to make vaccines mandatory for certain workplaces and industries, despite overwhelming public support for him to do so. As Morrison and his colleagues dither, influencers, unfortunately, have filled the void of leadership in this country. While politicians get caught up in their own hype and hyperbole, personalities like Celeste Barber cut through the spin on social media. After whipping up more than $50 million in fundraising efforts for those impacted by the bushfires in a matter of hours on Facebook, Barber recently went online to explain the government's vaccine effort.
So we locked down really early when this whole pandemic started, and also remember we're in the fucking other side of the world, middle of nowhere. So we locked down international borders and everything, and we're like, yeah, cool, we're the boss, and we were really smug about it. But now, because it's all about vaccines, our government didn't order us enough vaccines. What a time. And now we get yelled at by said government. Remember when Australia was on fire a couple of years ago, and that guy that was the lead off to Hawaii? Same guy. Same guy that didn't order enough vaccines, but is blaming us for not getting vaccinated.
She managed to outline the crux of the issue in less than a minute to her millions of followers. Fans who are from all walks of life on various platforms, including Instagram and Twitter. Even now, almost a week since she posted the video, which has been viewed more than 500,000 times just on Twitter alone, her catch cry, same guy, is still a trending hashtag. Social media is not real life. We all know that. And Twitter can be the crisper of society's fridge, filled with both goodness and detritus. However, it's a growing majority of us. It's where we get our news and, importantly, interact, especially with those locked down. But it's one thing to make a TikTok mocking the PM or turning him into a meme or to be a keyboard warrior. If you want to enact real change, it's up to us. We need to vote. Figures from the Australian Electoral Commission's December 2020 report show our overall voter enrolment rate is 96%. That's pretty good. But in the 18 to 24 demographic sits at just 84%. That 12-point gap signifies about 300,000 people missing from the voter roll. That's 300,000 potential votes. However, if there was ever proof the youth have had it up to pussy's bow with this pandemic and potentially the incumbent government, the proof is in the Pfizer pudding. In the 24 hours since the 16 to 24-year-old cohort were permitted to book in for a COVID vaccine in WA, more than 73,000 West Aussies made their bookings online. And they don't even have COVID in the community over there right now. Last Tuesday was a record day of vaccinations for young people. More than 58,000 people under the age of 39 got their first COVID dose. That's more than a fifth of all of the doses that were administered on that day across all age groups. We know this not only from the official statistics, but also because of the plethora of selfies from vaccination clinics that were plastered all over social media. So as the countdown to a federal campaign edges closer, virtual reality may be our new political reality. Will Morrison rise to the challenge or fail to chalk up the likes?